Hi, everyone. Welcome to our virtual public information meeting for the San Martin Boulevard Bridge PD&E study and preferred alternative. I'm Tony Fabrizio with Pinellas County Communications, and I'll be your moderator. In a moment, I'll introduce you to Public Works Director Kelly Hammer-Levy for opening comments. But first, I'll give you a quick overview of how the meeting will go. After you hear from Kelly, we'll play a recorded presentation that will explain the PD&E process, discuss the project, and present the preferred alternative. After the presentation plays, I'll introduce the panelists who are here tonight to answer your questions. And then we'll move into the question and answer portion of the program. In just a second here. There are three ways to ask a question in Zoom. First, you can type your question into the Q&A box on your screen. Second, you can click on the raised hand icon to be placed into a queue to ask your question verbally. And third, if you called in, you can hit *9 on your keypad to be placed into the same queue. Please note that we will be taking questions typed into the Q&A first. Once those have been answered, we'll recognize anyone who has called in with a question. After that, we'll recognize raised hands. If you're going to offer a comment rather than a question, we ask that you limit it to 2 minutes so that we can get to everyone. For anyone who is new to Zoom, you can find the Q&A and raised hand buttons by moving your cursor to the bottom of the screen to bring up a toolbar. On some mobile devices, the toolbar may be at the top of the screen. You can type in a question or raise your hand at any time, but we won't start taking questions until we get to that part of the program. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the project website within a few days. At this time, please welcome Kelly Hammer-Levy for opening comments.
Thank you, Tony. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. For the past 5 years, Pinellas County, in coordination with the Florida Department of Transportation, has been undertaking a project development and environmental study to evaluate the potential to rehabilitate or replace the San Martin Boulevard Bridge. We are excited about tonight because we're here to formally present our preferred alternative for a new bridge. Many of you will remember that this process began with a kickoff meeting in 2015. Then we came back to you in 2016 with an alternatives workshop held at Holy Family Church. We shared our options and received your feedback. We are now ready to show you a conceptual design for a new bridge that is improved in every way. Importantly, the conceptual design includes bicycle and pedestrian features that will connect to the North Bay Trail and future improvements to San Martin Boulevard. This new bridge has a service life of 75 years, taking us all the way to the next century. Our presentation will cover all the details, and our project experts will be available to answer your questions. And again, we are so glad that you could join us here tonight. I'll turn it back to Tony.
Thanks, Kelly. We are now going to play the recorded presentation. Please give us just a few seconds here while we tee it up.
Welcome. This presentation will provide an overview of the San Martin Boulevard over Riviera Bay Bridge Replacement PD&E study and discuss the preferred alternative that has been identified. PD&E stands for Project Development and Environment. The project is located in southeast Pinellas County, just south of Gandy Boulevard and east of 4th Street North. The project is located within the city of St. Petersburg, just west of Weeden Island Preserve. The purpose of this PD&E study is to evaluate alternatives for the rehabilitation or replacement of the San Martin Bridge over Riviera Bay. The project limits extend from Tallahassee Drive to Weeden Drive, a distance of 0.3 miles. The bridge replacement is included and consistent with the 2045 Forward Pinellas Long Range Transportation Plan. This study has been conducted to meet the requirements of the Federal National Environmental Policy Act, known as NEPA, so that future phases of the project are eligible for federal funding. No build, rehabilitation, and replacement alternatives have been evaluated for the bridge and presented at public meetings held earlier in the study. The purpose of the study is to address deficiencies of the functionally obsolete bridge that was built in 1962. The 2019 FDOT Bridge Inspection Report resulted in a sufficiency rating of 77.3 on a scale of 1 to 100, with 100 meaning excellent condition. Any rating below 80 may warrant rehabilitation or replacement. A 1994 FDOT scour evaluation classified the bridge as critical and susceptible to damage during a major storm event. San Martin Boulevard provides a link for residents in the surrounding area to access Gandy Boulevard and 4th Street North. The existing San Martin Bridge crosses Riviera Bay, an inland waterway with a direct channel to Tampa Bay. In addition to providing vehicular access to several neighborhoods from Gandy Boulevard, the bridge marks the boat access point to a series of canals that connect Riviera Bay to the 1,400-plus homes in these neighborhoods. Also, San Martin Boulevard provides a link for motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians to access the Weeden Island Preserve, a 3,200-acre nature area located just east of the bridge. The bridge is considered functionally obsolete, primarily due to its narrow width and narrow shoulders. The sidewalks do not meet the requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Existing railings and guardrail along the bridge are also considered substandard. Additionally, there are no designated bike facilities along the bridge. The existing bridge is 120 feet long and provides approximately 10.5 feet of vertical clearance above the main channel at mean high water. The horizontal clearance at the bridge is 22 feet. Since the bridge does not cross a regulated channel, the United States Coast Guard does not have predetermined clearance guidelines at this location. However, a new bridge should meet or exceed the navigational clearances of the existing bridge. During the PD&E study, several alternatives were developed that meet the purpose and need for this project. These alternatives were developed with input from the public, local government, and environmental agencies. Potential impacts, benefits, and other factors including community and agency input, economic and social impacts, engineering considerations, environmental impacts, and costs were evaluated for all alternatives. Most alternatives, including a fixed span left-shifted alignment and a fixed span center alignment, have been eliminated from further consideration. The NEPA process requires that the no-build alternative is considered a viable alternative for the duration of the study. For the no-build alternative, no improvements except routine maintenance would be made to the bridge. Safety concerns would remain, and no pedestrian or bike facilities would be improved. Replacement of the bridge could be reconsidered in the future. Based on comparison of all alternatives evaluated during the study, replacement of the existing bridge with a new fixed span bridge located completely to the right or east of the existing bridge was selected as the preferred alternative. Phased construction of the bridge will be used to maintain traffic along San Martin Boulevard during construction. The preferred alternative's conceptual typical section is a 2-lane bridge with 11-foot wide travel lanes and 7-foot wide bike lanes in each direction, a 6-foot wide sidewalk on the west side, and a 12-foot wide shared use path on the east side. A similar typical section is proposed for the roadway approaching from the north and south sides of the bridge. The shared use path is part of the North Bay Trail extension. Potential impacts to the natural resources, cultural resources, and the social and physical environments were evaluated during the study. This study included an evaluation of impacts to drainage and stormwater. No new stormwater ponds are anticipated for the project. The preferred alternative would result in 0.02 acres of seagrass impacts and 0.6 acres of mangrove impacts. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and National Marine Fisheries Service have determined that no threatened or endangered species are likely to be adversely affected by the preferred alternative. The National Historic Preservation Act of 1966 requires an assessment of impacts to historic properties. The State Historic Preservation Officer concurred in October 2016 that there are no impacts to historic or archaeological resources in the project area. The preferred alternative will not require additional right-of-way. The existing 24-inch force main and 12-inch water main located adjacent to and on the bridge will be impacted by the proposed improvement and will be relocated. No adverse impacts from contaminated materials are anticipated. The preferred alternative will not result in any permanent noise or air quality impacts. The advantages of the no-build alternative include no construction costs, no temporary disruption to navigation or motorists, and no environmental impacts. However, the no-build alternative will not extend the bridge service life, address existing safety concerns, correct deficiencies on the bridge, or improve bicycle and pedestrian facilities. The preferred alternative provides both pedestrian and bicycle facilities and improves navigation clearances while limiting impacts to the adjacent neighborhoods. However, the preferred alternative will result in additional construction costs, impacts to mangroves and seagrasses, and cause temporary impacts during construction. This evaluation matrix compares the impacts associated with the preferred alternative and the no-build alternative. The evaluation included anticipated impacts such as environmental resources and right-of-way, as well as construction costs. A copy of this matrix has been provided in the meeting notification and is posted on the project website. The design phase for this project is estimated to cost $960,000 and construction estimated to cost $13.7 million with a service life of 75 years. This study began in 2015. In addition to tonight's public meeting, the county previously held 2 public meetings and has coordinated with other local officials and planning organizations over the course of the study. Following tonight's meeting, the study team will review all public input and finalize project technical documents, which will be submitted to FDOT for review and approval. Final approval is anticipated in spring 2022. The design phase for this project is anticipated to begin in 2022. Construction for this project is anticipated to begin in 2024. Funds for design and construction are currently programmed in the county's Capital Improvement Program. Comments can be submitted to the project email account smb@pinellascounty.org or mailed to the project manager and Venables at the address provided. All comments must be received or postmarked by Friday, December 9th, 2021 to become part of the project records. All comments received, regardless of how they were submitted, will be reviewed and considered. If you would like to request a copy of the project documents, you may contact the county's project manager and Venables at the contact information provided. This concludes the presentation. Thank you for your interest in this important project.
Okay, I'm now going to introduce the panelists who are here tonight to answer your questions. First, the project manager from Pinellas County Public Works, Ann Venables. Hi, Ann. You may need to unmute yourself, Ann.
Hello and good evening. Thank you.
Hi. We also have our transportation section manager, Tom Washburn. Hi, Tom.
Good evening, Tony, and welcome everybody.
Thanks. Now we have our consultant project manager and roadway engineer from HDR, Marlon Register. Hi, Marlon.
Hi, good evening.
Next, from Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley, we have Wayne Arner, who is a noise, air quality, and vibration scientist. Hi, Wayne.
Hello, everybody.
Also from HDR, we have Nelson Conjura, a structural engineer. Hi, Nelson.
Hello.
And also from HDR, we have environmental specialist Vonnie Moore. Good evening, Vonnie.
Good evening.
We are now going to move into the question and answer portion of the program. And to moderate your questions, we have Erin Lawson, our engineering section manager from Pinellas County Public Works. Hi, Erin.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. And I'm going to go ahead and move into our Q&A section. As Tony mentioned earlier, we are going to take the questions that you have typed into the Q&A first. You just click on the Q&A icon in your toolbar and type in your questions. After we get through all of those Q&As, we will go next to, to the called in. So we'll take anybody that has called in is not on the video. We'll take your questions next, and then we'll move to anyone who has a raised hand. Please note also that if your question has already been answered, we're not going to repeat the answer unless there's a second part to it. And then all of these questions will be posted at the end. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move into our first question. What are the plans to connect the bridge to the north and to the south? I'm going to go ahead and let our project manager, Ann.
Thank you, Erin. We are aware of the community's concerns that the proposed bicycle and pedestrian facilities on the bridge will not, at this time, connect into existing facilities north and south of the bridge. At this time, there are no improvements funded in the capital improvements plan for the county, except for resurfacing of the bridge. We do anticipate that we will have funding, however, to build the trail from DOT through the Sun Trail project in fiscal year 26-27.
Thank you, Ann. Our next question, is there an estimate for the connecting road and trail improvements, and what funds will be used for such work? And I'll let you stay on for that one.
Yes, at this time, we do not have a cost estimate. And what was the second part of it? I'm sorry. Oh, and the funds, but we would anticipate that penny for Pinellas would most likely be used for those improvements.
Can you please include bringing reclaimed water across the bridge? I'll go ahead and answer that one. At this time, I don't believe that this project area is within the service area for the reclaimed water. However, during the design process, we will be, in coordination with our utility agencies. As stated, we will have the potable water and the sewer that will be part of this project. Our next question. The last meeting was in 2016. Everyone seemed to be excited about solving the traffic problems on San Martin Boulevard. I was 72 then, I'm 77 now. I live on the water in the Riviera Bay subdivision. What are the chances I will be able to see a completed project in my lifetime? Ann, can you answer this?
Certainly. Well, thank you for your patience, and we certainly hope that you will be here when we construct the bridge. As stated in the presentation, in design is funded for 2022, and construction is anticipated to begin in 2024.
Thank you, Ann. Next question. Will a study be conducted to determine if San Martin Boulevard to the north will be redesigned to a higher level, as the road has been flooded numerous times? If so, when? And I'll pass that one to you again.
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, at this time, we don't have any funds for improvements programmed in the CIP. However, when there are funds and the design of the improvements is underway, we will be evaluating the flooding issues and the potential for raising the roadway.
Thank you. Next. Hi, Kelly. Thanks so much for all the support and follow up on this important matter. I was at the meeting 5 years ago at the church. I'm glad this is progressing. My question is this. Since 2015 to 2016, we have seen worsening effects to our community. Should we consider increasing the width of the bridge? As you can see from the pictures, there are sandbars that was caused by this bridge that affects the water flow into our neighborhood. Marlon, will you please answer this question for us?
Certainly. The final length of the bridge will be determined during the final design. As part of the design process, a full hydraulics analysis of the bridge will be prepared. This analysis will evaluate the flows through the bridge to ensure that the new bridge does not negatively impact the flows through the bridge opening.
Thank you so much, Marlon. Next question is asking for the dates for the expected construction to begin and be completed. Anne, can you refresh us on that?
Yes, again, as we stated, the construction is anticipated to begin in 2024. And Marlon, I am not sure of the exact length of construction that's anticipated. I'm expecting about 2 years. Is that correct?
Yes, we're anticipating anywhere from 24 to 36 months, depending upon the utility relocations and the phase construction.
Great, thank you for that clarification. Next question, will there be additional dredging and deepening of the boating channel that leads to Tampa Bay? Marlon, can you answer that?
Yes, that additional dredging and deepening of the channel was not part of this study and has not been discussed as part of this project.
Next, it was mentioned before the presentation that there are plans to improve San Martin to Gandy. Is that correct? And is there a timeline yet? And I believe this may be in reference to the trail. Will you go into a little more detail on that?
In terms of the trail, as I stated earlier, we expect the county is currently working with DOT, and we anticipate that we will get funding for the trail along San Martin Boulevard in fiscal year 26 and 27.
Thank you. Okay, why have it taken more than 10 years from the study to project completion for a little bridge? Any special holdups? And I'll let you or Marlon get into this as I know you're both familiar with these PD&E studies.
I can start, Marlon. In general, PD&E studies do take longer than anticipated because of issues that come up during the study. And unfortunately, as you know, we also had a delay with COVID. Our public hearing was scheduled to be held almost more than a year ago and was canceled. And I'll let Marlon add to that if he would like.
Yeah, following the alternatives workshop back in 2016, we started the process of selecting the preferred alternative. We did go through a period of time there where we did an evaluation of the potential effects of sea level rise on the project. The Board of County Commissioners wished to make sure of the full impacts were made aware, that we were aware of that to the project and what that may affect the project and the dollars that were being invested in that. So there was a little bit of time that was there. And then the next delay that we ran into was in April of 2020, we were planning to go to the public hearing, and then the COVID pandemic broke out. And so we had a delay as we've been waiting for that to work its way through and be able to hold the public meeting that we're having tonight.
Thank you, Marlon. Next question. What is the cost difference between shifting the bridge to the west compared, let's just say east versus west? Do you have those numbers, Marlon?
Yeah, based on the preliminary estimate, the western shift was about $1 million cheaper than the eastern shift.
Thank you. Next question or comment is about the bridge width, I believe. Improvements meaning widening for cyclists with wide bike lanes on each side. Marlon, can you go through the typical section and the sidewalk and bike lanes one more time?
Share my screen. I apologize. I need to find the picture that's worth 1,000 words. Okay, this is, hopefully my screen is coming up. Erin, can you confirm that you can see that?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
The proposed typical section includes a 6-foot sidewalk on the west side, a 7-foot bike lane, 2 11-foot travel lanes, a 7-foot bike lane, and then a 12-foot shared use path on the east side of the bridge for a total width of 58 feet 11 inches.
Thank you. And as that showed as well, that's on both approaches and across the bridge in its entirety.
Right.
I know the bridge is currently a fishing spot used by many. I want to know or make sure that it's still going to be able to be used for fishing and not banned on the walking or mixed use pathways. Anne, do you have that one, or should I pass that to Marlon?
I'll answer that.
Marlon, yeah,
We
go ahead.
haven't made a formal determination of fishing on the bridge. And that's something that has been brought up at previous meetings that will be discussed further during the final design. It doesn't affect the results of our study. However, there is no provision, and there's really not enough room on there to provide any type of parking or anything on the bridge approaches. So.
Thank you. Next question says, why are we unable to see all the questions? And I might have to get Tony to help me out with this, but I think that's because as we answer them, they move into the answered form. But as we've mentioned before, all of the questions and the recording of this will be available shortly after the meeting.
Yes, that's correct.
In
Yeah.
a few days.
We'll have the entire meeting posted on the website within maybe 3 or 4 days.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, next question. How will the environmental impacts be mitigated? I think I'll let Lonnie take this one.
Hi. Yes, so during the alternative analysis, the mangrove communities were assessed on both sides of the existing bridge, and it was determined that the mangrove communities on the west side are of higher quality. And so it was selected to the new bridge will be placed on the east side, to the east. And the mangrove communities on the east side are established within the riprap rubble along the embankment of the bridge causeways. They're very low quality as far as providing habitat. So in time, also the new bridge causeway embankments will likely establish those same mangrove communities within the riprap, but also impacts to mangroves will be mitigated through the permitting process.
Thank you, Vonnie.
And
Our
I'd just add to that we're looking at 2 different ways. One would be doing on-site mitigation, and then also potential use of mitigation banks, mangrove mitigation banks in the area, in the local area. That's something that's always changing, and that's something that we'll be coordinating formally with the permitting agencies during design.
Great. Thanks, Marlon. Our next question says, trying to better understand with the new proposed bridge, what's the width of the bridge between the center pilings and the center channel? Marlon, can you go into that?
Yes, the existing bridge has approximately 22 feet of what we consider horizontal clearance between the piers, and the proposed bridge will have 50 feet of horizontal clearance between the proposed piers. So we're increasing the horizontal clearance between the piers, and that would be over the center of the channel.
Thank you, Marlon. Next, the bridge improvement sounds terrific. But what are the plans to create a dedicated bike pedestrian lane between Gandy and Riviera Park? Anne, can you answer this?
Yes. So the county is currently working with DOT to obtain funding for the trail that would connect to the multi-use path that is proposed for the bridge. And we anticipate that this funding will be available in fiscal year 26-27.
Thank you. Is this bridge even necessary? Is there an option to just remove? Go ahead and go for that one, Anne.
Okay. As we explained during the presentation, we did compare this alternative to the no-build alternative, which is basically not to replace the bridge. And it was determined that there are more advantages to replacing the bridge than there are to not replacing it. And one of the critical factors is that the bridge is scour critical, which means that the foundations are susceptible to damage during storms. Marlon, did you want to add anything to that?
The only thing I would add is that removal, we do believe that this bridge is important and vital to the community. It provides connectivity to the Weeden Island and for people that want to, from the local communities, to be able to access Gandy Boulevard and 4th Street. So removal of the bridge was not really an option considered.
Okay, thank you. Will there be noise mitigation features? Who made the decision to pick this option? And people that fish the bridge now, park on the bridge, how do you anticipate it will impact the neighborhood adjacent? How will it impact the neighborhoods? So the first part of that question about the noise mitigation features, I'll pass that to Wayne.
Yes, thank you. A traffic noise study was conducted for this project to determine whether the horizontal or the vertical shift could possibly result in a traffic noise impact. And the result of that traffic noise study is that no, there are no anticipated traffic noise impacts associated with this project. As such, noise abatement is not warranted.
Thank you very much, Wayne. Second part, who made the decision to pick this option? And I'll let you cover that.
Thanks, Erin. So we have, as we've indicated, the study has been ongoing since 2015. We have been considering public input throughout the study, as well as evaluating the potential impacts and the pluses and minuses of replacing the bridge and of all the alternatives that were considered. The project team of county staff were the ones that made the decision to move forward with the preferred alternative in conjunction with recommendations from our consultant.
Thank you, Anne. And I'll ask you to give a little more information on the final part about the fishing. Has there been any studies on how the neighborhoods may be impacted by fishing and parking?
To my knowledge, we haven't evaluated impacts of fishing on the bridge. And currently there is no parking. And at this time, we wouldn't anticipate there being additional parking. Marlon, is there anything else that we could add to that?
I think you have a little different situation in the existing condition out there today, that you don't have sidewalks and you don't have a trail across the bridge with barriers. So, you know, in the proposed condition right now, I would say people are parking probably, I don't want to use the term illegally, but it sounds like that's the way it would be. And we anticipate with the proposed improvements that would not be the case.
Thank you. Next, with the new increased foot traffic leading to the 1st Street Trail, has the wooden bike trail bridge going over the canal been taken into account? This bridge currently has pilings that are 75% degraded and is a safety hazard to bicyclists and anyone crossing. Could funds be used to repair the raise the bridge to ensure the safety of pedestrian traffic and help with the current high tide 4-foot clearance under it? Anne or Marlon, do either of you have any information on that 1st Street Trail?
No, that 1st Street South Trail is outside the limits of this study and was not part of the consideration for this study.
Thank you. And as what we can do is we can coordinate with our trail lead and see if we can get some more information on that 1st Street Trail and any future plans for it. Next is a statement. There is reclaimed water and Renaissance. Those living on Weeden Drive have been waiting for reclaimed water for many years. Thank you. We'll keep that in the notes. The bridge will remove most mangroves to the south and change the angle of the incoming cars and headlights. What will be done to reduce this added impact? Marlon, can you address this?
Yeah, we don't The grades for the bridge will be raised, and with the barriers that are on there, we don't anticipate that this would be an impact.
Looks like the next one is another comment. The 12-foot sidewalk is unnecessary. There's no parking or foot traffic. Some 3,000 plus cars speed 60 miles per hour, and noise abatements are vital. Thank you again for that comment. You are going to take down the old bridge, correct? Yes, that is correct. And Marlon, I'll let you go into the theme of the traffic control and how that bridge will come down.
Yeah, right now with the east shifted alignment, we're anticipating the new bridge footprint is completely outside the old bridge. So we expect that the new bridge construction could begin while traffic is being maintained on San Martin Boulevard. Then as the construction progresses, we anticipate that we will move one lane over to the new approaches and the new roadway while we complete the rest of the roadway on the approaches, and then we can move the other lane off over to that so that traffic will now be on the new bridge, and then we will proceed with removing the old bridge.
Thank you, Marlon. I'll let you answer this one as well. How are they sure the proximity to the south houses will not feel vibrations or more sound?
I would assume that you're talking about in the permanent condition. We do in the permanent condition, the vibrations typically from the traffic are not significant. We experience larger vibrations during the construction, and that's something that would be monitored with the standard construction process. During the pile driving operations, we would anticipate that. And then I'll let Wayne discuss a little bit more about the noise impacts.
Can you repeat that part of the question, please?
Sure. How are we sure that the houses on the south will not feel the vibration or more sound?
Mm-hmm. Okay, the Florida Department of Transportation rarely does vibration studies along highways because vibration falls off rapidly from the edge of pavement, usually within 10 feet to a level that's safe for historic buildings. What's more of a concern by far is noise. And we did evaluate traffic noise at the two residences nearest the roadway at the south end of the project. And the maximum sound level predicted there was 61.3 decibels. Now, the Florida Department of Transportation considers a traffic impact to occur at 66 decibels. So again, the highest sound level that was associated with the project was 61.3. So again, for this project, we did not identify any impacts, any traffic noise impacts associated with the shift in either the vertical or horizontal alignment of the bridge. I hope that helped.
Okay, thank you very much, Wayne. From the designs that were supplied, it looks like those residents that will be exiting Renaissance on Tallahassee Drive will have to cross the proposed bike pedestrian lane to see the oncoming traffic from the bridge. Has this been addressed? Marlon,
Yeah.
will you please address this?
Yes, part of the evaluation and definitely in the final design as well will be the evaluation of sight distance. The geometry that was chosen and laid out for those intersections and for this proposed bridge realignment is consistent with sight distance requirements for that, and we do not anticipate that being an issue.
Thank you. Wouldn't it be better to plan for the north section of San Martin Boulevard to be worked on prior to 2027 since the bridge will be completed by then? it would seem that since the bridge will be unusable during construction, the work on the North Road and bike lanes trails could occur in parallel rather than prolonging the work until after the bridge is complete. I'll touch on this a little bit. First, the bridge is going to be available for traffic throughout construction. That's, as Marlon discussed a little bit ago, the phased construction that will take place. And then as far as the trails, the connection that's being programmed for that project, that is a separate project, and that's in conjunction with DOT, as Ann mentioned, the Sun Trail grant. Ann and Marlon, if you have anything to add to that, please feel free.
I think that you covered it, Erin.
Thank you. Okay, next, would there be any temporary closures for boat traffic during the project? And if so, is there any idea of the time length of closure? Marlon, can you answer this one?
We're anticipating that the final design will allow for boat traffic to be maintained during construction, and we anticipate that will be one of the conditions of our permits. There may be some, what we would call a disruption, where if they're doing something over the channel, setting a beam or something, they may have to temporarily disrupt boat traffic for that, but there will be notifications for that, we anticipate.
And I was just going to add to that the U.S. Coast Guard does require us to maintain boat access and auxiliary during construction, except for in the situations for short times, as Marlon mentioned.
Yeah, we're talking a short period, not an extended period of time.
Thank you. Why does the design put bikes unprotected on the street instead of on the sides where the Pinellas Trail will exist? Anne?
Well, there are a lot of differing opinions about whether or not bike lanes should be protected or not. But the Pinellas, not the Pinellas Trail, I'm sorry, the multi-use path is designed so that it can serve as both a bicycle and pedestrian facility. Although we do understand that the faster bicyclists tend to like to use the roadway bicycle lane. It's our understanding from some discussions that some cyclists like to be able to exit in and out of that lane and not be constrained by a barrier. And maybe there's some additional information, Marlon, that you could add.
No, I believe that, bikes can use both the trail and they can use the bike lane. So it's an option for bikers to use either one. For the casual bicyclist that feels more comfortable on the trail, that is available to them.
Okay. Next, since the bridge includes a 12-foot shared use path, is this included in anticipation of later potentially widening San Martin and perhaps turning this shared use path into an additional lane on the bridge? Anne?
No, the intent of this project is to keep the number of lanes as for travel lanes the same as the existing bridge, and the typical section that's proposed could not be changed into a wider bridge for more capacity.
Next is another comment. If the bridge stayed where it is, none of the mangroves would be affected. Okay, when you take out all of those mangroves, you don't think that the noise will increase in addition to lights from the cars on the bridge impacting those residents in Renaissance. Wayne, you may have already answered this, and if so, I apologize, but did you take those mangroves into consideration in your study?
No, it's FDOT policy not to consider vegetation. That's because, according to the Federal Highway Administration's Noise Barrier Design Handbook, in order to get a perceptible decrease in noise from vegetation, the vegetation must be at least 100 feet in width, 15 feet tall, and dense enough you can't see through it. So removing the existing mangroves may provide or may increase noise, but to a level that's imperceivable. I think that the biggest issue with vegetation is that it blocks the line of sight. It blocks the view that the residences have of the roadway traffic. And that creates a psychoacoustic phenomenon where if you can't see the cars, you're less likely to be annoyed by the noise. But in terms of shielding, vegetation is usually pretty poor.
And I'd just like to add, for those of you that might not be clear, why Wayne keeps mentioning FDOT and Federal Highway. As we tried to explain, which I know is complicated in the beginning of the presentation, we are conducting this in accordance with the National Environmental Policy Act. So that requires us to look at the Federal Highway guidelines for noise.
Thank you, Anne. Next, we have another comment. I'll go ahead and read it. So how many deaths and accidents do we need to have to live and deal with from walkers, joggers, and cyclists from 83rd Avenue to Gandy Boulevard to move the funding closer to the present? Sounds like the new bridge will have really nice bike path and walking trail to nowhere. The residents in Riviera, Whedon, and Gandy area are tired of being treated like the redheaded stepchild of Pinellas County and City of St. Pete and FDOT. This area always gets the neglect between unfinished or lack of sidewalks, homeless people in the woods, and even islands in the mangroves behind dog tracks. Derelict boats, unbearable traffic on Gandy Boulevard and San Martin Boulevard, and the completely trashed area, especially Redneck Riviera Beach. And I guess the only thing we can address to that comment is, you know, there is a program and the trail will be connected as part of the program. How high are the barriers on the bridge? Marlon?
32 inches.
Thank you. It looks like we've had a few more comments and questions about the First Street Trail Bridge, and that is City of St. Pete. So you can contact the City of St. Pete regarding that. We will also be coordinating with them as we get into the trail project. Another statement or comment: this is a safety matter that shouldn't be ignored. Love the new bridge. We fully support this improvement. Thank you. Over 3,000 cars go across twice daily at high speeds and will be 19 foot high. Noise should be measured at 4 to 6 p.m. I believe Wayne has already touched on this. They've done their study, and it does take in consideration the peak hours.
Can I expound on that?
Of course.
Yes, the Florida Department of Transportation, or FDOT, has specific guidelines on what traffic data to use. And it is based on the peak noise hour as well as the posted speed limit. And this is done for all projects in the state of Florida for conformity. Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Thanks for expanding on that. And will you please stay on for the next one?
Certainly.
If there's evidence of sound above 66 decibels after the new bridge is built, what will be done?
Well, that was one of the primary focuses of the noise study, was to determine if the bridge would result in any sound levels at any of the residences reaching 66 decibels or higher, because that's the point at which you have to evaluate noise abatement or noise mitigation. but that was not the case. We did not find anywhere where traffic noise would exceed 66.
Thank you. If there is negative property value because of the proximity of the bridge, will there be a reduction of property taxes? Anne?
Thank you, Erin. We do understand your concern about property values. There has been a study or property values along the Pinellas Trail have been evaluated by the Pinellas Property Appraiser's Office, and it was found that properties along the Pinellas Trail actually accelerated or increased in value at a faster rate than those in other parts of the county that were not adjacent to a trail. So we don't anticipate that there would be a negative impact.
Thank you. Will traffic during construction be reduced to one lane with alternating flow? I'll answer this one, and Marlon, jump in if you have anything to add. As Marlon stated, we're going to have two-way traffic during construction as part of the phasing. However, there is always the opportunity that traffic will have to go down to one lane, but it would be flagged, and that would be during off-peak hours.
Aaron, I think that's correct. I mean, usually during instances where they may have to deliver materials, beams or structures materials to there may be a need to temporarily restrict it to one lane, but not for an extended period.
Thank you. If temporary boat traffic closures do happen, would residents have prior notification? Yes, I'll go ahead and answer that one. We have a couple of projects right now where we've had to interrupt the boat traffic, and we've set up a texting system, and so that all those in the area will receive the text messages. And then also in addition to that, there are variable message boards that are out. This is a comment, Anne. This is a bridge. No one can go fast going up the bridge. And then next, what role does Nelson Conjura have in this project? Nelson, do you want to come on and answer that?
Sure, I am a bridge engineer and I have been supporting the project and available to answer any questions if more is needed in detail with respect to the structure or the bridge. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Nelson. Okay, right now this is our last Q&A. Has your study of the bridge included a visual surveillance which would show the dangers to bicyclists and vehicles? There is a light pole which is 1 foot from the street, which has been hit by cars at least 8 times. The next light pole after that was hit earlier this year. Bikes pose a great danger to the riders and the vehicles. Anne or Marlon?
I don't think there was a specific study that looked at this issue. Marlon, can you add to that?
I'm sorry, I was just reading the question a little bit. It seems to be in reference to an existing condition. And what we've been looking at is the proposed condition with the bridge, for the proposed bridge. In that situation, it would meet the current site distance requirements and the horizontal clearance requirements for utilities to be offset from the edge of the travel lane. So I don't think this will be an issue in the proposed condition. If I misunderstood your question, then please submit additional clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlon. And I'll just add a little bit to that too. And I know we've already touched on this a little bit, that the multi-use trail is separated from the travel lanes and the bike lanes. The bicyclists always have the option to use that area. And then there is, that separation.
Aaron, we have a couple of raised hands. Do you want to recognize the raised hands?
We can do that, sure.
Okay. Mr. Greg Peel, I'm going to unmute you, and you'll have to unmute yourself, and you can make your comment. You'll have to unmute yourself. There you go, sir.
Hi, thank you, Tony, and thanks all of you for hosting this meeting. My name is Greg Peel. I live on the corner of Tallahassee Drive and San Martin Boulevard, so I'm very much interested in this. I've participated in the two previous meetings back in 15 and 16, and I had some constructive, I hope, constructive comments. But my main concern is noise and traffic control speeding. And I'll say I disagree with Wayne's comments about noise and his decibel readings of less than 62 decibels. I don't know how long he did his study or what time of day, but it is a major concern right here on the roadway. Especially certain days of the week, like Wednesdays, it's bike week in the county, and you've got motorcycles coming through here at well over 100 miles an hour, and I know that for a fact. And let me tell you, it's loud. And traffic at rush hour, morning and night it's a constant drone. You've got cars with loud mufflers sometimes, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night speeding through. I sent a long email to Ann about these concerns, and I actually invited her to come out here and sit for a while and see what it really sounds like. And I'll do the same with you, Wayne. We've been here for over 20 years, so we know exactly how it sounds. Now with a new roadway, the bridge is, as it is now, the road surface itself is getting in pretty poor condition. And when a new roadway is constructed, the speeders are just going to increase. I'd like to know what can be done about noise in two ways. Marlon, you said that the barriers are 32 inches high. Is it possible to make them higher for noise reduction? And I did email to Ann, hey, is it possible to control 35-mile-an-hour traffic with speed humps? That's not very practical. I know that, but what can be done to control the traffic and the noise right adjacent to our house here? Thanks.
Okay, I can address the issue about how traffic impacts are determined. The Florida DOT, as well as the Federal Highway Administration, evaluates traffic noise impacts only for proposed improvements, not for existing roadways. So the noise study only looks at, does the project cause impacts? Now, if there's other things going on, like speeding, for example, and I travel on San Martin all the time, and I know if you drive the speed limit, you're going to have a convoy of vehicles behind you. But unfortunately, that is more of a law enforcement issue or a traffic management issue. In terms of noise, there's a standardized traffic volume, and we use the posted speed. And again, we only evaluate noise impacts for proposed improvements. And those impacts have to be determined using the Federal Highway Administration's traffic noise model, or TNM. Traffic impacts are not identified through noise measurements. I know that's I know that's not what you want to hear, but those are the federal and state guidelines that I have to abide by.
Thank you, Wayne. And I'm going to ask Tom to come in and give us a little more on the enforcement issue and possible things that we could consider during design.
Sure. Thanks, Aaron, and thanks for the question. It's nice to be able to get to talk here. It's been a while. Yeah, just following up on what Wayne said, when we've got speeding issues, we do rely on law enforcement to assist with that. This type of road, although the county doesn't install speed humps as part of our traffic management program, the functional class for this road wouldn't allow for speed humps, just because of the amount of traffic that's on there and what the roadway serves. Where we have had success at controlling the speeds is with speed feedback signs, electronic signs that we put out that has the speed limit sign attached to it, but it will tell a motorist that's approaching it how fast they're going, and they really do help to get the compliance down. With the newer vehicles, a lot of times people don't quite understand how fast they're going. They sort of lose track with the noise reduction in the cars. They're not quite as noisy as they used to be. So those type of messages really do capture the attention of most of the law-abiding motorists. The other thing that those signs do for us is it measures the speed and volume 24/7. It allows us to download that information, allows us to provide that to law enforcement. And so it's a partnership between us and law enforcement moving forward, and it allows them to really focus their enforcement efforts when speeding is a problem. So I know we don't have those out there now, but that is certainly something that we can take a look at, something that we can work with St. Pete. St. Pete's been a great partner in helping us work on the traffic issues in this area. So hope that helps.
Thank you, Aaron. This is Greg. May I comment on that?
Sure, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, Tom, that is really good feedback. And let me just add one other thing to Wayne. I understand where you're coming from, where you're not considering a change in noise impact. But hey, as an engineer myself, I think this is a perfect opportunity to look at these issues for improvement. You're talking 75 years down the road here, all right? And it's not just my house, it's every house in this neighborhood that hears this traffic. And I think it's an opportunity to maybe improve on it. And like I said, maybe it's just increasing that 32-inch wall a couple feet higher or something. Your 100-foot mangrove barrier, I disagree with that too. That's our only noise buffer right now. And it does help. In fact, I try to let the trees grow over there, whether they're Australian pines or Brazilian peppers. I don't care, because it does help. And then here's another question: where you're taking out the old bridge, there's going to be an open area there. Will that be filled with mangroves again, or what's going to happen with that? That's there's going to be some existing real estate down there, and maybe the mangroves could grow in there. But I think it's just an opportunity. And Tom, thanks for the feedback of that sign. I agree. Down by the church, there's a 25-mile-an-hour flashing sign there, and people do slow down for it for the most part. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Greg. Wayne, I'll let you add anything to that if you'd like to, and then Bonnie as well.
Sure. I'd like to address the potential noise mitigation of a traffic barrier. I evaluate traffic noise on interstates with overpasses that have your concrete traffic barriers. And what we find is that they provide 1 to 2 decibels of noise reduction. Now, in acoustics, anything less than 3 is not perceptible. A 3 decibel reduction is barely perceptible, and 5 is readily perceptible. So again, these concrete traffic barriers provide 1 to 2 decibels of noise reduction.
I'll just mention about the after the new bridge is constructed and the old bridge is removed, there is potential for mangroves to establish. Mangroves do recruit and establish very easily, and there will likely be areas. It's not a part of the project. Mitigation for mangrove impacts have to occur before the project construction begins. So that cannot be a part of the project. But in time, you'll likely see mangroves recruit and establish within these areas after construction. And then you can also work with not-for-profits and even the county or other organizations to perhaps do restoration projects, even the Nature Conservancy.
Thank you, Vani. I was just going to add something to that effect as your last statement. Obviously, during design, we can consider the addition of planting additional mangroves, and we can also possibly get credit for that for mitigation, but we can definitely look into the possibility of restoring the area during the design phase.
Agree. Thank you so much, Anne, for adding that.
And can I add one more thing regarding noise? Again, DOT only evaluates traffic noise impacts for a proposed roadway improvement. They don't look at existing, or they don't look at impacts on along existing roadways. That would be a type 2 program. Some states do that type of noise, but Florida does not have a type 2, also known as a retrofit program, that would evaluate traffic noise right now along existing roadways. So Florida does not do that.
Thank you, Wayne. I think, as Tom stated, looking into the enforcement side of this will definitely help with that noise as well. And then also with the resurfacing, that will help improve the road condition.
Aaron, we have a raised hand from Edwin Ashurst. Edwin, you can unmute yourself and ask your question or make your comment.
Yeah, thank you. And I do live just a couple of houses away from the construction. I just want to add about the speeders and the Mr. Conjura assistance in stopping what is a shortcut to avoid the 4th Street and Gandy Boulevard intersection, and results in a complete raceway. The average number of citations, and I've been 7 years with the sheriff on traffic control, and I understand the dangers involved in speeders, but the average number of citations in a 3 to 4 hour monitor of the speeders by the police department. I have a letter here, and it states they give out an average of 25 citations in 4 hours. Now, if it takes 20 minutes to stop a speeder, issue a citation, and get back on the job, that tells you that as fast as you can get resituated, you're catching another one. I mean, it is just an absolute raceway that needs to be controlled. And I realize the current bridge is just as bad as the new one. So I'm not saying the new one necessarily would create more, but I do believe it will create more traffic using this shortcut and using it as a speedway. Then if you take that and put it 19 feet high, rather than the existing, say, 10 feet, to me, the noise barrier and the traffic control is just an issue that needs to be addressed. And I realize I'm restating what's been said, and I tell you, the 7 to 9 o'clock a.m. and the 3:30 to 6 o'clock p.m. traffic, it is just like Daytona 500 here.
Thank you for your comments. Tom, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just that, I'll commit to performing the speed studies and working with the city of St. Pete. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the passion. Unfortunately, this isn't unique to this area. We deal with this countywide, and other agencies deal with it as well. So we're all working hard to try to address these type of issues. So,
Okay, I just will say nobody has monitored speeders here for some time with the new police administration. I'd like to see that start back up again. Thank
Thank you very much. Tony, do we have any other raised hands?
Yes, ma'am. Aaron, we have a raised hand from Mitch Lee. Mitch, I'm going to unmute you and then you can speak.
Okay, great. Thank you. I want to say thanks to the whole team on putting all this together and trying to get this thing moving along. In that vein, we're 4 to 5 years away from seeing a new bridge. Is there anything that can be done to accelerate the budgeting, the design, anything possible to move this timeline up? Because now we're about, I guess, 10 years from when this first started or more. It would seem that I don't know what the timeline is for the design, other than that, then we've got about 2 years to complete a bridge design, which seems obsessive. What my experience has been. So those two things together, can we address the budgeting possibilities and also the design in order to try to expedite the project?
Sure, I'll start on this, and then Marlon, if you want to jump in with the timeline for design. 2 years is fairly typical for a design for a bridge of this scale. We have to go through several phases to make sure that we incorporate all the elements into the design and then get it ready to bid. As far as the budgeting, this is one piece of our entire capital improvement program, and it's a balancing act to get the funds for all the projects and their needs at the right timeline. So the way this project is actually budgeted and scheduled right now is about as quickly as we can get it done. Marlon, did you have anything to add on the design timeline?
Yeah, as far as the design timeline, these types of projects are take a little bit more time in the design process. There's a lot more environmental permitting that goes into this process and permitting reviews. There's also, with this, we're going to have a substantial utility relocation in coordination with the city of St. Pete for the water and the sewer lines. So that type of interagency coordination and working through those processes takes time, and that contributes to the design schedule for this type of project.
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned the utilities, Marlon. Is there a plan to change the power line distribution along the bridge? Will it be different than what we see today with poles and power lines above ground?
I believe, are you talking about the light poles or the pole that's further to the west that they're crossing?
Well, you tell me. I thought power was not, and power is running on the bridge. Is that along the conduit, along with the sewer?
I believe that's for the lighting only, and those will be relocated as part of that. We'll probably incorporate other lighting in with this project.
Thank you. Tony, did we have any other raised hands?
Aaron, at this time, we have no other raised hands. There are a few questions in the Q&A.
Okay, I'll go ahead and get through these.
Aaron, before you do, I wanted to add a comment to the question about the mitigation that would be done for the impacts to the mangroves. I just wanted to point out that it's the preference of the county to not use mitigation banks if possible, and that we will be investigating a number of opportunities within the county, within parklands and other county property to do mitigation. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Thank you. Okay, next, is there a concern that these changes will encourage more cars to cut through on 83rd to get to Gandy? Marlon, has that been a consideration?
Not necessarily, because we're not, as we've stated, we're not doing anything to increase capacity on this road. So, you know, from the limits from on either side of the bridge, I mean, we are improving the visibility and the sight distances across the bridge, but the approaches to this bridge and everything, we're not making any type of capacity improvement. So we don't anticipate that would encourage more people to use the roadway.
Thank you. What is the reason that the bridge needs to be shifted? Marlon?
The reason for the shift was to be able to maintain the existing bridge and traffic on the existing bridge during construction.
Thanks. And this next one is another comment. My issue was, I think you need to move faster to build the bridge. And we just discussed that in our last conversation. The 4-hour police enforcement of this bridge yields 25+ citations. Thank you for that. And finally, I feel Tom's pain, but the mangroves would not have to be there if they did not build this bridge as badly as they did 50 years ago. There is only 15 homes on the other side of the bridge as opposed to 300+ on the other side. Thank you for your comments. And that takes care of it, Tony. I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Erin. If you joined us late, we've been discussing the San Martin Boulevard Bridge PD&E study and preferred alternative. As we mentioned, the meeting has been recorded and will be made available on the project website within a few days. Again, that website is pinellascounty.org/San Martin Bridge. We have an FAQ section on the website, and we'll be adding some of tonight's questions there. If you have any additional questions, you can email Ann at the information shown on the screen. If anybody called in, that's 727-464-3640 or SMB San Martin Bridge at pinellascounty.org.